Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the UGASports Call-In Show. I'm Paul Maharry, joined alongside, as always, Trent Smallwood. And Trent's about to have a baby, so we won't see him next week, guys, but he will be back the following week. Good to have him on with us this week. For the topics at hand for tonight, guys, we've got the second spring scrimmage. Georgia's just a week away right now from G-Day, and it's actually getting to see some live football in front of us inside Sanford Stadium. The other things we want to talk about, what will the offensive line look like? Kirby Smart mentioned a couple names that might have raised some eyebrows in his post-scrimmage interview with the media, and we want to touch on that as well. We also didn't get to touch on this. It was right after our show ended, literally within 30 minutes last time, Trent, of the Tyke Smith reaction. So we want to touch on that and what that means for the UGA backfield, the defensive backfield. Also, Georgia got another basketball transfer. We'll touch on him. And who are some guys that are in the portal that could potentially make their way to Athens and Tom Crean's team? Last but not least, we'll wrap it up with the baseball win, the big victory, series victory over Vanderbilt, and how they rocked Kumar Rocker. You guys heard my story about Rocker, and they got to him with G-Day happening. And what do you got for us, Trent? Who stood out to you from basically – so we can't see this for you guys that don't know. We don't have access to this. We have access to this from – second and third hand information. Who are some of the guys, Trent, that kind of stood out to you, or even in Kirby Smart's press conference that, you weren't thinking you were going to hear about? I'll go first. Ryan Davis was the one for me. And he's been injury plagued the entire time he's been in Athens. It feels like he's a name that you've forgotten. He is now wearing that 0 number on defense, which I feel like, if you're going to wear that number, because Big Darnell Washington on the offensive side of the ball has that number. If you're going to have that number, I feel like you should be making some plays. And Kirby Smart alluded to that in his press conference, that he is stepping up into that middle linebacker role, and we might see a little bit more of him definitely coming up this fall. Trim, were there any names that stuck out to you?
Well, I mean, you got your normal names of Jordan Davis and Chris Smith and those guys, which, Chris Smith having a good spring is important, especially on that back end. And the addition of Tyke Smith back there, he's going to push those guys. I mean, that kid's good, and so Chris Smith having a good spring is important because I thought he played good in the replacing Richard LeCount last year. But the kind of name that was kind of in my mind is Mel Munden. He's a true freshman, but I've heard he's doing great things on that field this spring, and his speed is really being shown, whether it's being blitzing or tracking down ball carrier. And then I heard he had a big hit yesterday on this against Georgia running back. So I think Georgia at linebacker really needs to. I think they struggled at times last year, even though they had some key guys with Dean. I think they struggled in coverage, and I think that's one area where Munden could really help them.
When Munden was a prospect and I watched his tape, I didn't know if he would be able to make that instant impact his first year, and I don't know if he still will or not. It is good to hear from the spring that he's making strides. I thought he was a little small. I thought he would need to get into the weight room, but those Georgia weight room coaches can get those guys 20 pounds before the fall season, especially jumping in, January.
I think if anything, I don't see him being like a first and second down guy, especially his freshman season. But I could see him as a situational guy that they bring in on third downs, use him as a blitzer, kind of the way they did Channing Tindall as a freshman. Use that speed to make plays and maybe even drop into coverage every once in a while and just be a situational guy. But it's good to see his name coming up a lot during these scrimmages. That means making an early impact for the Dogs.
And while we talk about this second scrimmage, we can kind of parlay that right into the Tyke Smith reaction. And what was your whole take on that? Obviously, he's not there with the Dogs right now, Trent, but I did some research here. I want to get your take, and then I'll dive into the research about Tyke. What does he bring to this defensive back? I know that this was the question mark moving into this season, right? Was who was going to be those 5 guys, because Georgia likes to run that nickel defense a lot. Who are going to be the 5 guys? And then after that, we haven't even touched on the depth portion of it. We're just trying to find the 5 guys that can get out there and start right away. I think Smith is a huge addition. I'll get to my stats in a second. I want to get your take, though.
Yeah, I think he's the perfect addition, and I think he just brings he's experienced. I think he brings experience to the secondary is one thing Georgia's lacking. Lewis Seen, Chris Smith. I think those two guys are going to be on the field. I think you're going to see Tyke Smith in another role, whether it's move Chris Smith to star and Tyke Smith play safety, or Chris Smith stay at safety and Tyke Smith play nickel. I just think he's going to bring that experience. I think he brings he's a big hitter. He's also he's also excelled in the coverage. So I think he's a guy that can play multiple positions. I don't think you're going to see him playing outside corner, but I think you will see him at the nickel and maybe some safety.
So to give you guys a frame of reference, I did a little bit of research before the show tonight. Tyke Smith, 5'10", 198. Not a big guy, but his numbers do the talking, guys. 8 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 61 tackles last year for West Virginia, which is huge from a defensive back. Also, his PFF grades, okay, so 89.7 coverage grade would be better than any Georgia Bulldogs defensive back grade last season. The one that comes the closest was Tyson Campbell at 75.4, and then overall grade, an 82.4 overall grade. He graded out second on West Virginia's defense. That would have been third on Georgia's defense, right behind, where did I put it? I put it somewhere. I can't find it. He would have been third, though. He would have been third on Georgia's defense in overall grade, according to our friends over at Pro Football Focus. Just to give you a frame of reference of the position that he's going to be taking over, whether it be Tyreek Stevenson's role or Mark Webb, those two guys last year, Mark Webb, 60.9 overall grade, 60.8 coverage grade, and then Tyreek, 64.7 overall grade and 68 coverage grade. Again, Tyke Smith, 89.7 coverage grade, 82.4 overall grade, and that was second on West Virginia's defense. This guy is a playmaker. I know a ton of sites had him last year. This is before the season of last year, had him in the top 100 overall players in college football. I can imagine that he's going to be moving up that list this year, and he is definitely a guy that, we talked about it last show. We didn't know it was a for sure thing, right? But we talked about it, and Kirby waited and waited and waited to find his guy at that defensive back position, and it seems like Tyke Smith is that guy. With that being said, Trent, does Georgia look for another true corner, or do they feel comfortable enough with Kimber and now Amir Speed emerging as the two corners, with Ringo being the third?
Oh, I think Georgia's going to continue looking. I think the spot where Georgia needed to add depth was cornerback. Tyke Smith's a big add, just for the simple fact that Georgia does have some experience at safety, but they don't have the depth overall. And I think he's going to come in and be a playmaker immediately, whether it's the star or the safety. But I still think they're going to have to add a corner. Just for the simple fact that you're throwing some kids to the fire, and I just think even just a veteran leadership would really help that position. But I still look for Georgia to take a cornerback.
As this grows closer, we talked about it last week, guys. It's going to be tough to find a corner, because if you're a starting corner caliber level for UGA, normally you're going to be a starting corner caliber level player at the school you're already at. You're going through spring practice already. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to find that guy, like Trent said, and I think they need at least one more. If you guys are watching us, make sure to comment where you're watching us from, whether that be your couch, whether that be on a sandy beach somewhere because your kids are on spring break. Let us know where you're watching us from. We know that you've got the Braves baseball game on right now, and you're watching us on your phone. You're watching the Braves on the TV, and we appreciate it. Trent, moving forward, what will the O-line look like? And the reason I brought this up was there was a name that was brought up by Kirby Smart in the press conference after the second scrimmage that might have caught some people off guard, because he's not highly rated. He was not a 5-star coming in. He was a late add, if you will, by the Georgia Bulldogs coaching staff, and that is Xavier Truss. This guy's making moves. He's holding off 5 stars right now in Broderick Jones and Amarius Mims for that left tackle position. Trent, what do you have on that?
Well, I think Xavier Truss made moves in the last offseason.
He did.
He was the guy. I believe he started. Didn't he start the first game at tackle? Or he might have. He was one of those top 3 guys at tackle last year. So he didn't move last year. I think it's all about him putting it together on the field when the games roll around, because him having big sprains, I think this is the year that he could finally put it all together. He's a big kid. He wasn't well known because he's a Rhode Island kid. How often do you see a Rhode Island kid? But he's always had the potential. He's got the length. He's got the size. He's just had to put it all together when you got on the field. And maybe this is the year he puts it all together. I mean, it's impressive that he's holding off a couple 5-stars there at that position.
Another thing that Kirby mentioned in his press conference that I thought was great for Georgia fans was Jermaine Burton was able to take part in some individual drills on Saturday while the team scrimmaged, and it looks like, to me, Don Blaylock, Rosemy-Jacksaint, and Burton should be ready to go by the first game of the season. Obviously, we touched on it last week with the loss of Pickens. What will that wide receiver room do? Then you heard about Burton going down. Then you heard about this guy and that guy. And it just continued to move the needle the wrong way for the wide receiver position. I think now you can kind of sit back as a Georgia fan and say, okay, we've got guys. They've got to get a little bit healthier, but we've got the guys there. Obviously, Pickens isn't there. But there are other names starting to emerge as well, Trent. Demetrius Robertson finally making his name known in Athens.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think they have the depth, no doubt about it. They got some talented kids on that side of the ball. Probably the most talented group they've had in years in Athens. And of course, when you lose your number one receiver, it's going to hurt, and there's no doubt about that. George Pickens is a game changer. He's a guy that you can throw to in triple coverage, and somehow he comes down with it. But I think overall their depth is so good at the position that if you're getting these injuries back, that can overtake losing that number one guy. You're still going to see a drop off. You're not going to have that go-to guy like Pickens, but getting a Don Blaylock back, a guy who you can count on catching the ball every time you throw it to him, and getting a Jermaine Burton back on the field, who's probably going to be that number one guy now, and having D-Rob show up. I mean, him being a senior and been in college football for 5 years now, and he's got the potential to really show out. So I think that just having the overall depth of the position is going to help. I think Don Blaylock all comes down to just confidence in his knee. I think when he gets out there, I think he's just got to show the confidence that will he be hesitant? Will he be able to cut on a dime like we're used to him doing? So I think that'll all come down to confidence. But I think the depth-wise, I think, with all the names popping up, even like Ladd McConkey popping up. And
Jalen Johnson, a guy that was a walk-on, yep.
You got all kind of names popping in. And then plus the freshmen that came in this year. So I think you got some guys on that side of the ball that are ready to play. It's just, make sure those top guys can stay healthy and JT distributing the ball.
Yeah, JT talked about A.D. Mitchell, Adonai Mitchell, a mid-year enrollee. Didn't think we were going to hear his name this early, but he's been making plays, and obviously the guy that we've talked about a bunch, you've heard about on the UGA Sports Live podcast, is Justin Robinson, is another guy that stepped up. So it seems like that Georgia wide receiver room, minus Pickens, they do have the guys there. Dave McMahon, our guy, Dave McStats, put into the chat, said, Truss played 6 games last season, Trent, and he started left tackle at the Peach Bowl, and he played in 3 games in 2019. So, again, he's not that 5-star name, but he might get that left tackle spot. Just goes to show you, stars might not mean much when you have that heart inside of you. You're a Rhode Island kid. Maybe you were looked over, like Trent said. Who knows? But Georgia's looking like they have enough depth on that offensive line. Another thing I want to touch on, Trent, is it seems like, to me, JT Daniels really has control of the offense. And what I mean by that is he had control last year, right? When he came in, it was a totally different team with him on the field. But within his interviews and within, what Kirby said about JT, it seems like he has a really, really good, firm grasp on what his role is this year. Last year he was hurt. And then he came in midseason almost as a savior type in a sense, going out there and throwing for 300 yards, something we hadn't seen all season, something we hadn't seen in a while on the field. And now he's finally getting to be into that role where he knows he's the starter. Kirby's already named him the starter. There's no ifs, and, or buts. JT is the guy. We knew that, right? But even when Fromm was quarterback, Kirby wouldn't come out and say, yeah, Fromm's the starter. He would always say, yeah, we're having an active competition, this, that, and the other. JT has full control of this offense, and with that, I think you're going to see just his ability to get in there with Todd Monken and really break down film. And he has that swagger about him. Like we said, Trent, he started as what should have been his senior year of high school at the University of Southern Cal instead of playing at his high school, Mater Dei. So this kid has it. I just think that's another takeaway from this whole spring, where next week we'll break down G-Day, where we'll actually get to see some live ball and talk about guys out there. But that's another thing that I've been able to take away, Trent, is just watching JT's maturity and seeing him out there now. It feels completely like he is in full control.
Oh, yeah. And you know, it's been important. I think Georgia's had a QB controversy. I don't even know how long. And then the one year they didn't have a QB controversy, it was because Jake Fromm was the only quarterback on the roster. So, you know, it's important to go ahead and you know who the guy is. You know who the guy is going into this after spring. You know who I think JT, Jermaine, all those guys are going to be working together consistently. And, you know, I think they'll be on the same page come the season. And like I talked about last week, having that offensive coordinator having your offensive coordinator consecutive years, especially with a year coming off like last year when you didn't have a spring and you didn't have much preparation time like Monken didn't have. You know, having your quarterback already there and you have your number one guy, having the offense installed this spring, having everything on the same page moving into the summer, that's something they didn't have last year. And I think that really set them behind, especially with the quarterback situation they had last year. And I think they'll come into this season a lot more prepared from an offensive standpoint than they were a year ago.
And I don't want to get folks or fans hype about this upcoming season, but I really do think Georgia and Kirby Smart are really building a team to make a big title push this year. They've got running backs who we've heard Kendall Milton's done great things this spring. You had Zamir and James Cook both come back. You've got Darnell Washington at tight end, who's going to be, I think, a superstar. You've got talk about Brock Bowers coming in and being that freshman tight end guy that, you know, you hear about. And then you've got the wide receiver group. Offensive line seems set wherever they line up, right? They're going to have 5 great offensive linemen out there. Seems like the offensive side of the ball, and with another year of Todd Monken, is set. Am I wrong in saying that, Trent?
No, you're completely right. I mean, there's a lot more question marks on the defensive side of the ball.
Right.
Side of the ball. And that's something that Kirby Smart has not had besides 1 year. And that 1 year, Georgia went to a national championship. So, I think Kirby sees it too.
I do too.
Adding these guys from the transfer portal, knowing that this could be his year. Alabama's got a starting a freshman quarterback. Clemson's starting a freshman quarterback, or a first-time quarterback. All these new teams are starting first-time quarterbacks.
Ohio State.
He's got his senior quarterback there. He's got his offensive coordinator that he wants in Athens. He's got his playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, and he knows this could be his year, and he's taking full advantage of it. Whichever way he can go, as far as transfer portal, whatever he can do to add to that defense side of the ball, or whatever weakness they might have, he's looking to fill those holes because he knows this could be the year that the Dogs could win it all.
And when you look at that defensive side of the ball, Trent, like we said, Tyke Smith adds a huge just playmaker, overall playmaker. So, like, I look at it as a 3-tiered cake almost in a sense. I look at your D-line, I look at your linebackers, and I look at your secondary. And I try to find one guy that can lead you there, or you got that one impact player. And I think Georgia has it now. Not saying they didn't before. I think Lewis Seen could definitely be that guy still. But I think you've got Jordan Davis up front. You've got Nakobe Dean in the middle. And then you've got Tyke and Lewis and Chris Smith, who I think a lot of people are sleeping on Chris Smith. He had a really good year last year. You've got those guys in the secondary. You've got a guy at every position, that I think can be a true playmaker, every depth of the field, rather. And then you've even got guys like Nolan Smith, Adam Anderson coming off the edges. He's going to have a lot to work with. And, if he finds that extra secondary guy, we really could be talking about a special year for the Dogs, and I don't want to get folks hyped up, but that's just what it is. I mean, I think this is one of his most complete teams to where they can throw for 300 yards, or they could rush for 200 yards, or they could do both in the same game while holding a team under 200 yards because their defense is so stout. The one question mark, obviously, is cornerback, but they're going to continue to work on that, and I think with, Coach A coming from West Virginia, the way he was able to develop guys just like Tyke Smith and Drashawn Miller and the likes, I think that he's the perfect type of coach to have back there for those defensive backs, because he's a coach and he's going to get those guys right. So I think, that's my take on it.
And one name I think a lot of people forget about is Devante Wyatt, and I think he is the glue on that defensive line. And I know Jordan Davis is good, but bringing back Devante Wyatt was huge. He was a senior. He had a chance to get out of here and move on to the NFL or whatever. But bringing him back is huge. And they brought back a bunch of Trayvon Walker. I expect his junior year to be more successful than sophomore and freshman. So I mean, the D line and the linebacker, I think is just going to be just as strong as last year. But I think adding that one more piece on the cornerback, whether it's in-house or out-of-house, I think that's going to be the key to making a big run this year. And I think Kirby's definitely going to fill that position somewhere.
Christopher Black over in the chat says, to me, Sign is better than LeCount was, because, Lewis Cine has that Greg Blue mentality. I totally agree with you on the Greg Blue mentality. I like LeCount's leadership. I like that, he was Kirby's first guy sort of to start off his whole recruiting at the University of Georgia. But yeah, Lewis Cine has that, definitely has shades of Greg Blue for sure. He also says Wyatt's an awesome athlete too. Go ahead, Trent.
I look back at LeCount, and he missed the Florida game, and there was a lot of miscommunication in that secondary during the Florida game with the wheel routes and all that stuff. And I think Georgia plays a lot of that match coverage, and I think that was one big reason, missing that lack of leadership in the secondary, and somebody stepping up in that role. And I think Chris Smith very well could step up in that role and be more, talk more out there and be that leadership. But I think, filling that LeCount role is not as far as his play. I think Chris Smith every bit can play on the field, but I think it's that leadership part, that communication part that really had LeCount standing out. And I think that's one area where Georgia have to have somebody step up.
Hey, Chris Black, I'm going to challenge you. Give us a question in the comments, man. You're a great commenter. Give us a question in the comments. The rest of you guys watching, put your questions in the comments or give us a call, 706-363-3773. I know we're going to have Dave McMahon call in just a second. He's been covering, the Augusta National the past probably the whole week. He's been down there just off of his stint in Indianapolis covering the Final Four. So he's going to have some tidbits about the baseball team as well as the basketball transfer and even some Augusta National stuff for you. So waiting on his call. While we wait on his call, we do have some basketball transfer news, and Georgia got another transfer, Jaylen Ingram, Trent, out of Madison, Georgia, Morgan County High School. So he's coming back home, played down in Florida for his college ball. 12.4 points per game, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. He is 6'7", 215 pounds. So there's a guy. They also got a guy we didn't even touch on a couple weeks ago, actually, was Braylon Bridges. Came from Illinois Chicago. That's the basketball team name. Illinois Chicago University, I would assume.
Pretty sure they were in the dance a few years ago.
Were they? I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. 6'10", 235 pound center, I guess you would say. He's actually from Union Grove High School, Atlanta, Georgia. 9.9 points per game, 5 rebounds per game. I don't know if Georgia will have anybody close to 9.9 rebounds this year, but those two guys they brought in. Another guy to keep your eye on, who I've been checking sources with throughout the day, is Philandrius Fleming, Trent, out of Charleston Southern. He'll be a grad transfer, 6'4", kind of a combo guard, 210 pounds. He was the Big South's preseason player of the year, had 20 points per game and 7 rebounds a game to go along with 3 assists per game. He's from Athens, Georgia, Cedar Shoals High School. So for you guys that are wondering if Georgia's going to be able to field an entire basketball roster without calling for open tryouts the first week of August, Georgia is adding to their basketball team slowly but surely. So another name to watch out, like I said, he is actually going to be committing tonight, is transfer Philandrius Fleming. I say that 5 times fast. Philandros Fleming. He goes by Lando, okay? Make it easier. So Lando Fleming out of Charleston Southern, is announcing tonight, and I think Georgia's in on him. So that would be a big addition. But Jaylen Ingram committed today to Georgia, so it'll be interesting to see how that basketball roster continues to shape up, because like we looked at last year, seems like they had 8 grad transfers come in, Trent. I turned on the first game of Georgia basketball last year. I recognized like 3 guys, and I covered the team. But anyways, Christopher Black, he stepped up to the challenge, and he gave us a question in the chat. I think I just missed Dave's call, so hopefully he'll call back. He says, do you think Milton will start by mid-season?
I'm not going to say he's going to start, because I still think that Zamir White or James Cook will get the start on most Saturdays, but I could very well see Kendall Milton get the most carries. And then I don't think it really matters who's the starter, whichever way. But I think it all depends on who's getting those third and fourth quarter carries. And I could very well see Kendall Milton being that guy. I mean, he's got the power, he's got the the punch, the home run ability, and I think he could be the third and fourth quarter guy. I still think you're gonna see James Cook in a role like using him, splitting him out wide a little bit, just moving him around like they did against Alabama and creating those mismatches. I think Zamir White's still going to be your downhill back to get those tough yards. But I think Kendall Milton could be that guy that take over the most carries role for sure.
And Trent, while you were talking, I was able to get Dave McMahon on the line. Dave, you are with us here live. How are you doing, my friend? I think you're in Augusta, Georgia right now, right?
I'm in Augusta, Georgia, maybe a little bit sunburned, but you know what? I bet a lot of people would trade places with me being at the Masters for the last couple of days.
So, Dave, before we dive into your weekly stats, I've always wondered this. I'm sure our folks watching the show wonder this as well. You cover almost every large sporting event. What do you actually do when you're at the Masters? What is your role there?
Okay, so Masters is a little bit different than, I would say, majority of the sports I cover. Majority of the sports I cover, I'm mostly doing some kind of statistical role or research role in that. In a normal year for the Masters, I do what's called ENG, which stands for Electronic News Gathering, which is some fancy term that news uses. But what I do is I follow these outstanding camera people, and they there's two of them that I follow, and they're shooting the most intense, the best look. It's incredible film footage that's tight shots and you see the sweat dripping down, you see everything, every little possible detail about them. And what they do is they use that stuff for when you see the openings, when Jim Nantz has a nice little soliloquy about the Masters. You see about, hey, we're coming to at the breaks, it's like what the industry called teases. You see what features they use that stuff. So anything crazy, I assist those guys by running tapes throughout the course and stuff like that. I'm not the greatest knowledgeable in golf, but I am pretty good. But there are so much people here that do every tournament that are incredibly smart, so I bow down to them. This year I could not have done that because it's too many cards that are out there on the course. So this year, what my job was, I was called a spotter, and what I did is that I hung out at hole 15 the whole time, right next to the Saracen Bridge, which is pretty impressive. If you remember who Gene Saracen is, back from 1935 when he had that double eagle. In the golf, they call it the shot heard around the world. But I was not.
I remember that. I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember it like it was yesterday, Dave. Yeah, 1935.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's right in the back of my head. But exactly. What do you got for us for Georgia stats, my man?
Okay, so for Georgia stats, you were just talking about basketball a second ago. First of all, Jaylen Ingram, obviously a big guy, 6'7". Georgia didn't have too many 6'7" guys last year that were big-time contributors. I think only one or two tops, so I was very impressed with that. He's already played 5 different seasons in college basketball. And a couple of them due to injuries, so he got to play extras. And now, due to the extra COVID rules, he gets to play even for a 6th season. He's played 122 games in his career, started 105. 0 games, though, against ranked teams. So maybe his stats are a little inflated, but hopefully they're not. Hopefully he's the real deal. A couple of years ago, he averaged 18.9 points a game, so I was pretty impressed with that. What I was also very impressed is that he shot 45% from three-point line last year. 45%, which Georgia as a team shot 46% from the field. So he's almost just as good from the three-point as Georgia was from the field last year, and Georgia also shot 32% from three-point. So he's 45% last year. I'll take that any day for a transfer like that. I also want to talk about the baseball team. I know it's coming up on a segment pretty soon. Obviously, last week I said, well, they may have struggled against Kumar Rocker and Leiter and stuff like that. They didn't struggle too much. They took 2 out of 3 against Vandy, and I'll take that at any time of the day. That was the first time they won a series against the number 1 team since 1993, and when they swept the number 1 Mississippi State team. And that 1993 team was a pretty bad team for Georgia. They were only 30-29 that year and 10-18 in SEC play. So them sweeping Mississippi State was pretty impressive back in 1993. This team's a lot better than that team, and so that was pretty crazy. That first game, which they destroyed Kumar Rocker. I think I heard Kumar say after the game, because I haven't felt that bad since that umpire call. That's a bad call. But yeah. So they had 7 home runs in that game against Vandy on Thursday. The team record is 8 home runs back in 1986, which they did that against Georgia College. I'm guessing Vanderbilt's a little bit better than Georgia College. So, I mean, that was 7 home runs. I'll take that also. They scored 25 runs in the 3 games against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt had 25 runs scored against them in the previous 9 games total combined. So 3 games, Georgia for 25 compared to 9. That's also pretty darn good. Next up for Georgia, they have they play Georgia State in the middle of the week, and then they play Kentucky, who Kentucky just had a big win against LSU this past week. So nothing's ever very easy in the SEC. All right, last thing I'm going to talk about is the Masters. Obviously, many people watch that are watching this little program of yours, which is pretty darn good, if I may say so myself.
It's just because you're on it, Dave. That's all.
Oh, well, thank you. And people like to watch Trent's doorway, see if anyone walks in or not. So 6 players, 6 golfers were in the field for Georgia. 4 of them made the cut eventually. I'll go backwards for the people how they finished. Brandon Todd finished tied for 46. He was +5. This is the first time he's made the cut at the Masters in 3 times. So hats off to him. Bubba Watson finished tied for 26. He's probably still the most decorated golfer in Georgia history, tied for 26. He has now made the cut 12 out of 13 times in Augusta. So this course he loves. It's also the 6th time that he's finished in the top 30. He has obviously two top 2 wins in 2012 and 2014, which is pretty darn good. Next up is Harris English, finished tied for 21st. He finished even par overall. He has now, in 18 career majors that he's played, he has made the cut in 15 of those, including the last 11 times he's played in a major. He has made the cut. So not many people think about Harris English as a dominant Georgia guy. I mean, his last 3 times he's been in a major, he finished tied for 19th at the PGA Championship, 4th in the U.S. Open, and tied for 21st in the Masters. So, I mean, look out for Harris English in big tournaments down the road. And finally, a guy who's been up and down, who's been near the top of the leaderboard all week was Brian Harmon. Brian Harmon's maybe like 5'6", 5'7", 5'8" at the most. I mean, he's a little guy, lefty, and guy loves to fish. And this time, he also loves to play golf. Finished tied for 12th, finished 2 under par. His previous best finish at the Masters was tied for 44th, so tied for 12th is a lot better. It's the 11th time in Masters history a Georgia golfer has finished in the top 12 at Augusta National for things. So I mean, hopefully there'll be a lot more next year. I mean, hopefully, and then we've got the U.S. Open. Got PGA Championship. I keep on forgetting they switched the schedules around. PGA Championship happening next month at Kiawah Island, and then we got the U.S. Open and the Open Championship. The British Open will be back on the schedule. So hopefully a lot more Bulldogs will do well, and hopefully we could also have some more championships at golf in the college front.
And there you have it, folks. Dave McMahon with his 5 minutes of stats per week. Does it again, folks. Does it again. And one stat before you go, Dave, just so you know, Brian Harmon, that 12th place finish he got, $218,000 in his pocket for those 4 days.
That is more than me, you, and Trent combined salary.
Yeah. I was gonna say, speak for yourself. Trent makes the big bucks, man. I don't know. Trent's probably up there close. I mean, let's see, 21st, where you got Harris English, he made $138,000. So that might be kind of where Trent's at there. So Dave, as always, man, we appreciate you. Get some sleep, man. I know you worked hard this past week. We always appreciate you giving us a call.
And I'm off to Hilton Head tomorrow for the next tournament. So look out.
Hey, watch out. This man's on the move, folks. And always, Dave, thank you so much.
No problem.
See ya. Folks, that is Dave McMahon giving you the stats of the week provided by, we need to get Dave a sponsor, provided by like Eggland's Best or something, something crazy to give him a sponsor there. But we had a couple comments while Dave was on the phone with us. Dave Sheehan, I think I said that right, Dan. I missed his first name. I got his last name right. Dan Sheehan said, Trent, well, he didn't say Trent. I added Trent. Trent, what pass to run ratio do you expect to see this year?
I would probably say, I think it's the one good thing about Monken and it's still Kirby. Kirby's still the head coach, but I think the one good thing about him is he's willing to adjust whatever. He is a pass happy guy. He loves to pass the ball, and I think JT coming in provides that. I think you could see it in more passes. I think you might see him pass 35, 40 times a game. It's not going to surprise me. But I think towards the end of the year, I think you'll see it more on the, like 58-42 pass to run. I think it's going to be more passing than they've done, in recent times under Kirby. But I still think there's going to be games where you see him pound the rock, like similar to the Mississippi State game last year or not Mississippi State, sorry. Similar
I was going to say, it was a little different in Mississippi State.
But I can't remember who they played last year. But they focused on the run and they just pounded out 5-6 yards per carry, and JT wasn't forced to do much. I think it was the game after JT's first start. But
hey, Trent, we got a call. Let's get this call in.
All right.
Thanks for calling into UGA Sports Live with Paul Maharry and Trent Smallwood, who we have the pleasure of speaking with.
Yes, this is LS. I ain't made a comment down there, but that's my username, LS.
LS.
How you guys doing, man?
Good, man. Yeah. So it's just the letter L and the letter S. Do I put periods in between them, LS?
You can.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Pretty much brings up my name.
Okay.
But yeah,
what's
man,
going on,
I've been
man?
watching y'all for a minute, man. I've been wanting to talk about Georgia football. Bad,
we appreciate it.
Because it's like, this is why I look at our team.
Okay.
This year, our team is nothing like any team that Kirby has had. I think we can all agree to that right there.
I think we touched on that earlier. I think without touching on it, we touched on it. Yeah, I think we agree with you. Yeah.
And I want to say even when Rick was there, but this is my thing. Like our defense, just these three names right here: Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Trayvon Walker. That just got to strike fear in anybody. If they was with any other team in the SEC, we would call it a problem.
Yeah.
We'll have to face. You know what I'm saying? Like, we would be afraid of that. If Florida had them three names right there, we were like, hey, they are a problem. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like Jalen Carter, it was almost like he had already been here a year last year.
Right.
And we didn't have no spring, no nothing. Like, what, they had like 4 weeks, 6 weeks to practice before their first game?
Yeah, off and on, not the full team there, guys running in and out with this, that, and the other, yeah.
Yeah, and you got cats that come in as freshmen that miss spring and don't even see the field. You get what I'm saying? Like, this guy's going to go crazy this year.
Yeah.
I just he's going by himself. He is going to go crazy. Like, he's too strong and he's too fat. Like, his get off is crazy to be that big. He can move. You know what I'm saying? So I just those three. Then you got Adam Adams, 6'5", 254 3. That's amazing. He's so fast. I really don't see nobody even handling him like that. Like, who was going to stop him?
Last year, LS, if you remember, LS, last year nobody really stopped Adam Anderson. The only thing that stopped Adam Anderson last year was him not being on the field. That was the only thing that stopped Adam Anderson.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I was like, when he got on the field, it was like, I don't know if I not want him in the game. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
like,
right.
All the time. Because, like, every time he was there, it was a problem. He was constantly in the backfield. Like, I feel like just Nakobe Dean, man, he's so smart. Like these cats, I feel like this year might be the year that nobody even gets a running touchdown at all.
They were pretty.
You remember you remember the year that
was it 2
19?
years ago? Yeah, was it? I think it was 2 years ago, Trent, right?
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, and they only allowed 2 touchdowns, and both of them were to quarterbacks, I think.
Yeah.
Now ask yourself, do you think our front seven is better than that front seven?
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
I believe we're going to make that run again this year.
That's what.
Yeah, you were saying?
No, I think that's what we've been preaching on this whole show, LS. You're hitting the nail on the head, man. I think this team, and I think with G-Day coming up, I think we'll really get to see some guys. Obviously, they're going to throw some situational drills at them, this, that, and the other. But we're going to be able to see guys, height and weight, see where they're at, see where their bodies look like. Because I really do believe, and I don't want to hype the fan base up too much, but you've got all the pieces right there, LS, to finally bring home a championship that's not from 1980.
That is a major fact. And then it's like, the DBs, I promise you, I'm really not worried about them. I'm really not. They're going to come into their own. We got plenty of time before September get here. I'm pretty sure they're going to be straight. You know what I'm saying? It's just that, I feel like what people are worried about is because over the years, not getting there or being so close and not touching that trophy, it wears on people. So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Feel more doubt. You know what I'm saying? But even with the offense, before I even get to the players, Todd Monken.
Right.
Like I said last year, there was no spring, COVID, they was doing everything on Zoom. I look at every game, the 2 games we lost, Alabama and Florida. I cannot count on my hand how many times wide receivers was open down the field. It was amazing. Even when the quarterback was missing them, but I was just shocked to see how many times, especially in Florida, it was like back to back to back. They was down the field wide open.
Yeah,
I know they don't even have a whole playbook.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the Florida game was the one where Dan Mullen tried to give Georgia the win. He tried. He tried so hard to give Georgia the win. Georgia didn't take it though. They missed out on opportunities. But Dan Mullen really tried to give Kirby Smart that victory down. It didn't happen, but he tried so hard.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. The play calling was amazing. Just Todd Monken is fire. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you had options. No knock on Chaney. There's a knock on Coley. I'm sorry. He was not it. I'm sorry. I can't let. That was, folks. I know it's Georgia, and we hate to knock on Georgia, but that was trash, man. I'm sorry. It was like what the best play that he had, and he ran it twice. It was the play where Kyrus Jackson broke his wrist on, and he ran that play again.
Yeah.
That we got the controversy, non-controversy. We deserve that. We deserve that. I don't care what happened. You know what I'm saying? But that was it. But you look at Todd Monken, I'm talking about we did not have no practice. I don't think folks understand, like, no practice. No spring, no nothing. And we looked like that. The only problem we ever had, you know what I'm saying, we had was the quarterback.
Yeah.
And then Stetson Bennett was still killing them. It's crazy. Now we got JT Daniels. He came in. He ain't played football and I don't know when.
Been a while.
He ain't even 100%. And he came in 400 yards. Are you serious?
No.
Like this year, we are going to go crazy. George Pickens, I know that you can't replace that catchability.
Right.
But the thing I look at, like what he had and others have that he don't, it's the yards after the catch. Like Jermaine Burton, when he catch the ball, not only he's going to get downfield, but when he catch the ball, now he's a running threat. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
What is his name? The tight end, Washington, Darnell Washington.
Yep.
When he catch the ball, he's a running threat. You already it's going to be a problem to stop him from catching the ball, and he catches everything.
It's LeBron James at tight end. It's LeBron James at tight end, man.
And he could juke and run people over. It's crazy. Then you got Brock Bowers. He's another one. I don't care that he might. Folks say, well, he's a freshman. Well, I remember when George Pickens and I don't know.
Don Blaylock.
What's his name? Yeah, Blaylock. Yeah, when they got catches. You know what I'm saying? They got catches when they were. All Brock got to do is catch the ball. Once he catch the ball, it is over with. He gonna throw some moves, and he runs for 4-4. It's not. We are good. Arian Smith, you can be 6 to 10 yards away from him, and he still is gonna pass by you like you standing at the bus stop. Like just take him, right? I ain't even the offense. I can't draw up plays, right? But me just thinking about it now.
Okay.
Like him and Adonai Mitchell. Now, I watched his film. His route running is crazy. For him to be that tall, it's crazy how his route running is. You know what I'm saying? I got a feeling he's going to touch the field, right? So, just say you got him on one side and put Arian Smith on the same side. It's a problem because the DBs got to get back because they're scared of Arian. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if you kind of hold him up for a second at the line. Once he gets beside you, he's going to smoke you. And it's going to be fast. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to get down the field fast. So they got to get back. So anybody that is beside Arian Smith, they are going to have a field day. You get what I'm saying? Because, like, whoever comes up underneath him or whatever, it's going to be one-on-one coverage. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot. You get what I'm saying? Like, who has those tools? And then you got Todd Monken. He got to be smiling.
Oh, yeah.
He got to be smiling like, man, I know, like, when George Pickens went down, he probably like, man, I hate it, but I'm still going to have some fun. You know?
Right.
Crazy. And then I'm not even talking. I ain't even got to the running backs. That don't even make no sense. And I will tell y'all this. I know everybody talk about Kendall Milton, Kenny McIntosh, you know, James Cook, and White, Zeus. Dejon Edwards is fire. I don't understand why people. He is fire. Like, he got 100 yards in one game, and that was at the end.
Yeah.
It wasn't running to the outside, just wide open. It was going through the middle. He's like water. Like, I was looking at it, I was like, how are these cats not touching him? How is he maneuvering through everybody? I've seen everybody run. You get what I'm saying? I've seen all our running back run. I've seen all of them go through the middle. It seems like they get paused up or whatever. It seems like Dejon Edwards, once he gets 7-8 yards, somebody might, you know what I'm saying, slow him down. But he's going to get 7 to 8 yards before that happens. Like, his mobility is crazy. And then don't forget, he can catch like a wide receiver out of the backfield. It's too many weapons. It's too much. I don't believe anybody can handle us this year.
What I
I'm
do
not worried
believe,
about that.
LS, what I do believe is that if you keep going at the rate you're going right now, you're gonna take my job. You're killing it right now. You're absolutely crushing it, dude. Are you a preacher? Are you a motivational speaker? What do you do?
Man, I look at reality and I accept it.
Okay.
We got it this time. Like Georgia, look, we're not used to having all this. We are not used to having all this. Now
a lot of weapons.
A lot. And these guys are young. It's crazy. Like, who's the older? Like, how many seniors do we have this year?
You're gonna ask me a tough question. I mean, off the top of my head, Salyer, D-Rob, Kieris, Jordan Davis. Who'd you say, Trent?
Wyatt.
Yeah, Wyatt. Yeah, it's not that many. And look at the damage we're about to do. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else is looking at Georgia like it's a problem. You know what I'm saying? We are looking at ourselves like we got question marks. I don't understand why. You know what I'm saying?
You got to pick it apart. Sometimes you got to pick it apart, even though we don't know what they've got until they hit the field against Clemson. Sometimes you got to pick it apart, but like you said, you bring it back down to reality, LS, and this team is loaded at every position, man. So, hey,
yeah.
for a first call, you crushed it, my man. You absolutely crushed it. You're welcome on the program anytime. We can't wait to talk to you after football games on Saturday nights and get your impression of what happened on the field. So we appreciate the call, man, and hope to hear from you more more often.
Oh, most definitely, man. And y'all keep doing what you're doing, man. I love the show, man.
Appreciate it, LS. Take it easy, man.
All right, man. Y'all be blessed.
All right, you too. Yo, LS just came with some fire, Trent. I had to cut the man off because I don't know if Roddy's watching or not. I think he is. If he is, I'm out of a job, dude. LS came in and crushed it. But he's right, though. He's right.
The one good point he made was, how impressive Todd Monken was. I mean, you're dealing with the quarterback situation at Georgia. You're dealing with the COVID situation, and to be able to go to Alabama, Stetson Bennett throw for over 200 yards in the first half and be leading Alabama. That just shows you what kind of mind that Monken has. He has the ability. I mean, let's look back at even under Chaney, the route tree was pretty much garbage. You're running basic routes, but and everybody said, why can't our receivers get open? Why can't our receivers get open? Well, Monken is routing them open. His play calls are getting them open, and I think it was never a personnel problem. It was always the offensive philosophy problem.
Yeah,
it was always an issue, and I think Monken is totally revamped that offensive side of the ball.
We had a couple questions come in, Trent, and we'll go ahead and wrap this up. We'll answer these. And, guys, if you have any last-second questions, shoot them over in the chat, and we'll get to them before we wrap up here. Tristram West, I hope I got that right, my friend, said, I'm concerned about our cornerbacks. What happens when teams come out attacking our cornerbacks at the beginning of games? We can't slow down offenses if we can't cover on the edge. And then Classic City Dog, while we were talking to LS, comes on the chat and says, just hit their QB, bro. That's all you got to do. And he's partially right. You've got to get pressure with the front seven. And I'm curious to see, Kirby loves putting his corners on an island, playing that press man, playing one-on-one. I'm very curious to see what they look like coming out against Clemson, if there's more zone to kind of help those corners, how they're going to look, what kind of, how's that defensive backfield going to play out? Because with you having two new corners, yes, Clemson has a new quarterback, and his name's not Trevor Lawrence, but his name is DJ Uiagalelei, DJU. And he's no slouch, right? We've seen what he's been able to do. We saw what he was able to do when Trevor went down with COVID. He came in and crushed it. I think they lost, I'm pretty sure. It's slipping my head. But he came in and had a killer performance as a true freshman. So, I think Classic City Dog's right, man. You got to hit their quarterback. You got to get there on, well dialed up blitzes from Dan Lanning and see what works out. Rhett Womack has a question, Trent. He says, am I the only one who thinks left to right should be Mac? Am I tripping? Mac? M-A-C? Who is that? Left tackle, Trent. Who is he talking about?
Clinton.
Oh, duh. Yeah. McClendon. Sawyer, Cedric Van Pran, Tate, and whoever wins out of Truss, Mims, Jones at right tackle. I think you're a little wrong because you're going to have Schaefer in the mix there. And Warren McClendon is a guy that's not really getting talked about at all this spring, but started majority of the games last year for Georgia. So it'd be interesting to see where he fits into the rotation. I think you've got a lot of high-quality tackles, Trent. It's just going to be who starts off the season and who finishes it. And we had a piece over on UGAsports.com where we kind of predicted who would be the starting 5 offensive line and who would finish the year against Tech. Starting 5 offensive line, and it was a lot different. So it's going to be interesting to see how Kirby and Matt Luke are able to get those guys in there and get them playing time and see which rotation fits best. I still don't think they have their 5 right now, Trent.
I think from an offensive standpoint, it's not really a question mark. I think the only thing I'm interested in seeing come G-Day is what 5, what 5 line up first. I think that's the biggest thing because – your running backs are set, your quarterback's set, your wide receivers are pretty much set. So what 5 is Georgia going to throw out in the field, and how they work together, and I guess the biggest question mark is the tackle position. I think McClendon started all year last year, but you have pretty much to begin the year you have Salyer at guard, you have Schaefer at guard, and you have
position. Both tackle positions are going to be interesting to me. So. Guys, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Rhett Womack says, you think Schaefer has a higher ceiling than Tate? Not necessarily. I don't think that's the case, but I think Schaefer definitely has more game rep, more game experience, and I don't see him coming off the field, especially to start the year. I think he's got one of those guard positions locked up for sure.
Schaefer was one of those guys that, when we talked about the offensive line on the UGA Sports, he was one of the guys that I had penciled in as a starter to begin the year, and he might end up being that swing guy at the end of the year. But I think he's a valuable part of that offensive line just from his experience. And he might not be the most talented in as far as your offensive line goes, but I do think that his experience will play a big factor, especially against a team opening up like Clemson. Having him on the field, having Salyer on the field, you kind of being those leaders up front to begin the year, and we'll see what happens throughout the year as the year goes on. But I do think you'll see Schaefer start the year.
And I don't think Schaefer comes back for another season if he's not going to start either. So, he had a potential to get drafted this year, and he came back. So I think that's going to, be the deciding factor on Justin Schaefer. Guys, we had a jam-packed show. We really did. LS commented, DJ Ugla, I love it, for Clemson is not that fast. He is not going to outrun the defensive line, and they're going to apply the pressure. Bet that. Well, guess what, LS? We bet on you, man. You had a great show. We appreciate you calling in. Appreciate Dave McMahon calling in. Appreciate you guys sticking around on this Sunday night after the Masters while the Braves game is on. We appreciate you watching us. As always, Trent, want to wish you the best of births for your wife this upcoming week. We're going to miss you this upcoming week, talk about G-Day, but we will see you back later on after that. And Trent, you got anything else, my man?
No, I think that's it. I think we touched on a lot of things tonight. Big win by the baseball team, basketball team trying to field a team, and football looking bright in the future for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think this was the first show where we really kind of pulled back the curtain and let you guys know you've got a really damn good team in Athens, Georgia this year, and if they can put all the pieces together, this could be the year. So we'll see more from G-Day, who stands out, who doesn't stand out, and much more on next week's show. But, guys, we appreciate you so much for tuning in, as always. And signing off, I'm Paul Maharry. That's